All right, guys, welcome back again. Um, I want to address this issue. I really want to address this issue very much. You know, let's not paint a stone. Let's not the issues of. Let's not do the issues. Let's let alone the issues of painting a stone and calling it a bread, or rather, let's not assuming things, or rather, keeping quiet on the problems and the issues that are affecting Africa, because Africa has got a lot of issues that are affecting it. I'm saying this because I talked about something here. I said that Africa has got a very bad leaders, and Africa has a big problem when it comes to leadership because we have not had leadership for quite some time. We are having politicians who are leading us into who are dipping us into a deep sea, who are killing us, who are destroying the lands of Africa right now. And someone came to the comment section and said, I should shut up because I'm talking about the negative issues of Africa. I should talk about the positive issues of Africa. And if I don't have any positive issues to talk about Africa, if I can't talk about Sahel, I should shut up. I should keep my mouth shut. And it's okay. Every person and every comment is valued, and every view and perspective of people is valued, because at the end of the day he knows why he said that. But let me put this clear. Africa is our home. Africa is our motherland. You African who is in diaspora, you African, you black man who is in Caribbean, you black man in diaspora, and you black man in Africa. Africa belongs to you and me. And let me tell you something, and I'll not fear saying this. I want to tell you something for a fact. I want to tell you the truth. I can't fear saying it because I know that is the truth. And even in the holy book, it is written, you will only know the truth, and only the truth will set you free. Only by knowing the truth is when you can be set free. Because if you don't know the truth about Africa, how will you liberate Africa? If you don't want to address the truths about Africa, if you can't address the problems that are facing Africa, how are you going to save Africa? Because you can't save a place you can't save something, or you cannot liberate a place or save something that is not in trouble. We are struggling to save Africa because Africa is in a very big trouble. I know you may come back in the comment section with the same comment, or there are people who will come back and say, now, you're talking about the positive sides of Africa. You're supposed to be talking about, like you're talking about the negative sides of Africa. You're supposed to be talking about the positive sides of Africa. And it's okay. But I will tell you my mind, because I am a Pan-Africanist. And then whenever anything goes wrong and whenever anything is bad, we must address it. The only way to save Africa is when we trace the problems that we're having in Africa. You cannot correct a child unless you know you cannot correct a child unless you know where the problem of this child is. First of all, if you want to correct a child, number one, trace the problem so that you figure out how are you going to correct this child. When we are talking about bad governance in Africa, we are talking about leaders and we are talking about politicians. But how can we know that the people we need are leaders and not politicians if we have not seen, or if we have not spotted out the problems? No, tell me. How can we know that the problem of Africa is corruption? Or rather, how can we know that what we need in Africa is leaders who are free from corruption, if we don't know that the problem that is actually killing Africans and African land is corruption? We must speak them out. When I say Africa has got bad leaders, like has got bad politicians in the name of leaders, it's not that I don't love Africa, and it's not that I am exposing Africa, because who doesn't know that Africa has got bad leaders in the name of politicians, or bad politicians in the name of leaders? They're calling themselves leaders. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that Africa is in trouble because of the leaders we're having in Africa? So simply because I say that Africa has got a very bad kind of leadership, and Africa has to change from the leadership that is having, someone has to say that I'm talking about the negative side of Africa. I should talk about the positive sides of Africa, that we have many. Let me tell you the truth, and let me tell you something. There is nothing good in terms of leadership that we have in Africa. Hate me or love me. The only best leadership we have in Africa right now and forever, best ever to be seen, is the leadership that is in Sahel region. The leadership that we are seeing in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Niger. That is the best leadership that we have currently in Africa. But others, they're just playing games with Africans, with the people of Africa, with the resources of Africa, with the assets of Africa, with African land. They're just playing games with it. That is what they're doing. And we must address these issues, because if we don't address these issues, how are we going to save ourselves? We must spot a problem and talk about it, because let me tell you something. The issues of knowing the problem is here and you're keeping quiet, that is the reason as to why we are where we are today. Because we couldn't have that power and that energy to speak. We didn't have that knowledge to be able to speak out. But when we have that power and that knowledge to be able to speak out, that is why we are speaking out today. How many times have I praised Sahel and Ibrahim Traore, Goita and Tia and Abdurrahmani? I've been talking about them all the times. And someone who is coming here and saying that now you're supposed to be talking about the Sahel region and many other positive things in Africa, and leave alone the negative things, then you're not my fan. You haven't been watching my videos. I have never condemned Ibrahim Traore even a single day, because I know he is doing right. But a leader who is doing wrong, I must condemn and say this one is doing wrong. Because if you don't condemn them, if you keep quiet on someone who is doing wrong, they will think that doing wrong is good and they're on the right track. But if you address that wrong, if you spot a problem and address it with an immediate effect, if you spot a problem and address it with an immediate effect, I'm telling you the truth, people will begin shaking and shivering. Why? Because they know now, the people are now understanding what we are doing is not right. But if you keep quiet, that you just want to talk about the good issues, you just want to talk about the positive sides, you don't want to talk about the negative sides, how are you going to help yourself? African leaders are messing Africa big time. African politicians are messing Africa big time, taking bribe from the white people, taking money from the white people, and selling Africans into the hands of the white people, selling the lands of Africa into the hands of the white people, selling the African assets into the hands of the African people, selling the African property into the hands of the white people, allowing white people to come to Africa and taking over Africa and ruling Africa and imposing difficult rules on Africans and manipulating Africans and oppressing Africans and making Africa continuing to be poor and poor and poor because of African politicians that we are having here in Africa in the name of leaders. And we must say it, we must speak it out, because if we don't speak it out, nobody else is coming to speak it out. We are the people who are supposed to speak it out. Whether you love it or not, we must speak it out. Because only by speaking out is the only way that Africa is going to change. Because if we want to liberate Africa, number one, we should take out all these people, these politicians out of the government. We must do away with them and start installing leaders into the government. But if we keep quiet, as if everything is good, as if everything is correct, then we are not going to change as Africans. We should talk about the positive issues, but also address the negative issues so that these negative issues also can turn to be the positive issues. We are praying that one day we shall wake up one morning and everything we see in Africa is only positive issues and not negative issues. That is our prayer as Pan-Africanists. That is our prayer as black people in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Angola, in Zimbabwe, in Cameroon, in Senegal, that is our prayer as Africans. That is our prayer as black people in Caribbean, as black people in diaspora, that one day Africa will be a country and a land, a continent where everything we see is only positive issues and not negative issues. But how will we get to that? How will that happen? It will only happen if we mention and speak out the negative issues we are having in Africa, so that those negative issues can be able to change into positive issues. Because yes, we have politicians who are messing Africa big time. We have them. Why don't we speak out? If you're being oppressed and you're keeping quiet, you just want to say, Africa is good, Africa is doing well. Africa isn't doing well right now. Africa needs to do well. And that is why we have people like Ibrahim Traore who are coming out. Do you know the reason as to why Ibrahim Traore came out? The reason as to why Ibrahim Traore came out is because Ibrahim Traore was a military officer in Burkina Faso, a captain in Burkina Faso, leading military, and he saw that his country is not doing well, and that is why he decided, now I'm going to take over this country so that I can be able to put things online and to put things straight. Why? Because he saw a problem. So when you're asking me to only talk about Sahel, or rather to only talk about the three countries, or rather the leadership in Sahel region, when you ask me to talk about the negative issues and the problems that are facing Africa, you need also to understand, before Ibrahim Traore became the president of Burkina Faso, before he took over Burkina Faso, he saw a problem. Okay, and by spotting a problem, that is the reason as to why that made him to be able to decide to wake up and decide to take over Africa. If you cannot spot a problem, you will never solve a problem. Number one, spot a problem and get a solution. You cannot get a solution for a problem you haven't spotted. Number one, spot a problem. Then understand the nature of a problem. Then get a solution that is connected, or that is of the same nature of this problem, to be able to solve this problem. Call a spade, not a big spoon. It can never be a big spoon. A spade is a spade, a spoon is a spoon. Something good, let it be praised. Something bad, let it be talked about and be solved. Because we are looking forward to liberate Africa. And we must know the things and the big issues that are affecting Africa, so that when we are looking forward to do this, so that before we get to this work, we should know the regions that we are going to touch and the areas we are going to touch at large. But how will this happen? It will only happen after we have spotted a problem. So when a problem comes, we must talk about it. We must speak about it, whether you like it or not. You don't tell people, don't talk about the negative issues, talk about the positive issues. Why should we talk about the positive issues and leave aside the negative issues? These negative issues have costed us where we are today. Bad politicians, corruption, greedy, selfishness, selflessness. Those are the things that have costed Africa. Ignorance, carelessness, pride, arrogance of the leaders, of the politicians. It has really costed Africa a big, what are you saying? We shouldn't talk about the negative issues. We have to speak out. If we keep quiet, they will think they are doing well. If we keep quiet, they will think they are doing well. We don't want them to think they are doing well. We want them to know whatever they are doing isn't right, it's bad, and they have to change from it. In Kenya, people are being abducted. Citizens of Kenya are being abducted. If someone tries to criticize the government, he's abducted. He's taken away by the government. If someone tries to say this government is not doing well, he gets abducted. Are those the kind of things you want me to keep quiet on them? Are those the kind of things you don't want me to address or have to speak out on them? In Nigeria, there is a lot of corruption in Nigeria. Tinubu is a corrupt president, a very corrupt president. Are those the kind of things you want me to keep quiet on them? I cannot keep quiet on them. I must speak them out. They said, call them out by names. If you want someone to feel embarrassed, or rather someone to feel whatever he's doing is bad, call them out by name. Because if you don't call them out by name, they will continue doing the same things they are doing, because they will think whatever they are doing is right and it's not affecting us, people of Africa. Call them out by name, let them feel ashamed and change. If they cannot change, they get taken out of that throne. We must address, we must call a spade a spade. Anything that is wrong, a sin should be addressed as a sin. A wrong should be addressed as a wrong. Stop justifying the wrong. Don't tell me I should only talk about the positive issues. I talk about the positive issues where there is positive issues. But where there is negative issues, I must also talk about the negative issues, so that we will find a solution for these negative issues that are negative matters that are affecting Africa. Africa is a land that needs to be rich. It's a land where we have everything. A lot of people want to be in Africa. That is why they are using these leaders. You're asking me not to talk about them. They are using them to come and overtake Africa, to come and destroy Africa, to come and steal the property that belongs to a black man, and steal the land and steal the assets and steal everything. Our properties here in Africa are the ones being used to build Europe. Europe is looking the way it's looking like because of African properties. Because they are taking our properties and building their countries, and we are remaining the same. And it is happening because of these leaders who are corrupt, these leaders who are ignorant and selfish and prideful, these leaders who are proud of themselves. We cannot tell them anything. These leaders who are greedy, they only want to be given something, some kind of money, and make their pockets to be full so they can be able to protect the interests of a white man. These leaders who does not care about the people of Africa, it is happening through them. It is happening because of these leaders who does not even care about a child who's sleeping outside, who does not even care about the people who cannot be able to provide food for their children. And the leaders that you want them, they're the same leaders you want me to keep quiet, not talk about them. I will talk about them. I will call them out by names so that they can be able to change, because they have to change. And by mentioning them is when they will feel ashamed and change for the better of the land of Africa. We must address it. We must talk about it, because if we don't have talk about it, nobody else is coming to talk about it. We are the only people, the only young people, young generation. We are the people who need to talk about it. If I cannot talk about it, who else will talk about it? We are having Pan-Africanists who are aging. When they are no more, who will be able to talk about these things? We must talk and we must address these issues. If you don't want us to address these issues, if you feel like it's very hard and it's very bad when someone is addressing the issues, the bad issues and the problems of Africa, then you better just don't make a comment, because you're making people angry. The people out here that you're making angry. Call a spade a spade. Africa is a big place. Africa should be a conquer. Africa should conquer the world. 80% of the minerals in the world, 80%, if not 70%, is coming from Africa. From Africa. If Africa become one, Africa will conquer the world. Africa will be untouchable. Africa has got great minds. Africa has got great, he has got great, like Africa has there is nothing that is not in Africa. Africa has got fertile land. But why are we not where we're supposed to be? Bad governance and bad leadership. The only good and best and great leadership we have in Africa is found in Sahel. The rest are jokers. I must say it, and I've said it. Adios, guys.